So as we have navigated 2020 with all of the tensions, with all the hardships, we end up layering trouble. This morning, friends shared how Lennon is in the hospital. We have interpersonal tensions going on in our homes that maybe we haven't shared with anyone else, but we've carried it here this morning, and we are just wondering, how do we even get through that? Sometimes it's something inside of us that we're trying to navigate on top of everything else, and we just have this overwhelming burden, and we just wonder, how are we going to get through? We wonder, how are we going to make it through another day? Maybe it's bills that are piling up. There's a lot of financial insecurity during this time. I get it. And it's so hard. It can kind of leave us longing, leave us wondering, almost unsure how to move forward with kind of each and every day. The beautiful thing about the Bible is that we bring ourselves to it. We bring what we've carried with us through the week. And every time we crack it, we come with everything that is weighing heavy on us. And we wonder, what does the scripture say to me, where I am with what I'm doing? And as we found out, the parables are actually the perfect method of teaching, because you can do nothing but bring yourself to the story. We've been working through this Tell Me a Story series, looking at a few of the parables of the kingdom that Jesus unpacks in Matthew 13. And we found out that when we think about a parable, it's a reminder that they're stories meant to illustrate a little bit more abstract truth. There's always more going on in the parable than just a nice story. It gives us these word pictures in order to experience the teaching, not just hear it. Not just learn it. You enter in. And so when it mentions a picture, you picture based on your own experience, based on your own frame of reference. And each and every parable is an invitation to you and to me, to everyone on the live stream, to enter into the hunt for truth. And so a parable, we've kind of been running with this idea that a parable is a story illustrating truth through the painting of word pictures that invite the listener into a hunt for truth. And so friends, this morning I invite you, in the midst of the turmoil, in the midst of the tension, in the midst of even those unspoken things that are weighing heavy on you today, to enter in to the search for truth today. In Matthew 13, verses 44 and following, Jesus says, "The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then in his joy went and sold all he had and bought that field." Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. When he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had and bought it. Here we have two similar parables that we're weaving together into our common teaching this morning. We're going to just dive in and see what emerges. Now, when we think about the two parables, the thing that is clear, 100% clear, is that the thing that is found offers value beyond compare. Value beyond the compare. So you have that man who finds a treasure hidden in a field, and it is worth more than everything else he has combined. And so he goes out and sells it all, and he says, I just want the treasure. I just want the treasure. And then you have the merchant who is on the hunt and finds this pearl. And again, it's valuable beyond compare. And so the merchant sells all that he has in order to get that pearl. It's so desirable that the person sells everything for it. Everything for it. There's a sacrifice to get this treasure. There's a letting go of all that they're holding on to in order to embrace the new thing. It's a letting go in order to embrace. It's actually quite a beautiful thing. Now, in weaving together these two stories, we actually have two people highlighted. Two different types of people. And maybe you can actually find yourself in the midst of one of these two people. We have the people that fall into it like the man in the field. Did you notice that he just stumbled upon it, right? It doesn't say he was searching for a treasure. He doesn't say he knew it. He didn't have a map with an X on it. It's just a treasure hidden in a field, and then when the man found it, it's like you can just picture someone walking through a field and stubbing his toe on the corner of a treasure box and say, "What's that?" And then digging it up, looking in and being amazed at what he had stumbled upon. Some of us come to the kingdom that way, right? We've been walking through life, and we get struck with an immense sense of beauty or depth of life or vibrancy. And maybe it's because you met someone in your neighborhood and they were just so compelling. You leaned in, you asked some questions, you pursued them. But maybe it was just something else, but the kingdom of heaven struck you one day. It was like a man who stubbed his toe in a field on a treasure and went out and sold all he had in order to get it. Others have this deep desire, this search, and they go searching for it. Like the man, the merchant looking for fine pearls. It's a diligent search for truth. There must be more than this, and so I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to read every book. I'm going to pursue every philosophy in order to find truth. There must be more than this. And after seeking, diligently finding a pearl that's worth it all. Two types of people are illustrated. There's different ways to find ourselves in the kingdom. Some stumble upon it and are surprised by the kingdom working itself out, and others have found it after a diligent search for truth. Value beyond compare. Value beyond compare. It's interesting, though, when we see a parable like this. Some of you may be here and you're like, okay, John, I've been tracking with Jesus for a little while, and I've had moments where it felt like it was a pearl of great price. I've had moments where it felt like it was a great treasure worth everything, but right now I may be struggling. Right now I may not be feeling that. Right now it may be a hardship even. Some people have had such hard experiences that sometimes church is also very difficult. The great theologian Bono penned that anthem, "I still haven't found what I'm looking for." And for so many, they've wandered through life and they can sing that song with gusto because it describes their existential reality of searching down every highway and byway, every alleyway, trying to find this thing that they're looking for. And they're just met with a longing for more. Some of us are even here today still in the midst of that search where we would cry out, "I still haven't found what I'm looking for. I'm still looking." The search is honest enough, right? Because as we've highlighted, and we will continue to highlight because we need to be reminded and reminded again, we were actually created for a deep and meaningful, vibrant relationship with God. The early chapters of Genesis just reminds us that we were created for this just immense life surging through us, deep connection, resonance with God. We were actually created to have a deep resonance with each other. and a deep resonance with the world around us, a shalom, a peace, a wholeness, and yet we don't experience that. We have dissonance, we have a struggle. And oftentimes we have a struggle in all those relationships, a struggle with God and a struggle with each other and a struggle with the world around us. And we long for more. Still haven't found what we're looking for. Some of you have been pursuing Jesus since you were a kid, and there may still be times where you find the journey dry. When we think about this concept of shalom, what we were created to experience, it really is just this experience of everything necessary for a healthy life. This is good health, but it's also a sense of well-being. Good fortune, cohesiveness of community, being known and knowing, loved and loving, having relationship with our relatives that makes sense, working through the disunity in order to be connected once again. All of this is wrapped up in this idea of shalom, what we were meant to live with and experience. We were made for it. That's why we still haven't found what we're looking for. Because it's wired into the core of our DNA. So every time there's dissonance, we say it's not supposed to be this way. That's the problem, is because there's dissonance every day. You can't turn on the news without feeling the dissonance of the moment, the chaos. It's not supposed to be this way. We were created for more. We were created for something other. As we see the narrative of Scripture play out, there is within the Hebrew mindset this longing that there would come a Messiah that would deal with the dissonance, that would deal with the chaos of reality. And Isaiah speaks of this. And in Isaiah 9, verse 6, the prophet says, "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and Prince of Peace." Prince of Peace. Now us reading the Scriptures post Jesus, we look back and we see that this was a messianic expectation. This was written well before Jesus, looking forward and saying, this is what we're waiting for. And then Jesus came and summed up all the messianic expectations. So it's in Jesus that this was talking about. So Jesus is the Prince of Peace. The Prince of Peace. So as we are looking for something that's going to sum up our heart's cry, silence the longing deep within, it's actually a longing for Jesus. It's a longing for Jesus. When we think about that, some people may say, yeah, okay, John, but I've tried Jesus. And a real question to ask is, which Jesus? Right? It is a real question. Which Jesus? Which Jesus have you tried? G.K. Chesterton, he was an author, influenced C.S. Lewis. He said this. He said, "The Christian ideal has not been tried and found wanting or lacking, missing something. It has been found difficult and left untried." The Christian ideal has not been tried and found wanting. It has been found difficult and left untried. When we think about a pursuit of Jesus, whether we stumble upon him, stub our toe on a treasure that we find, wait, the kingdom of God is here now, breaking out into this world, and I'm surprised. Or whether we seek diligently the truth that we find, the truth that's going to wrap up our heart cry, that's going to silence the heart cry, is finding Jesus. Now again, sometimes we pursue this in ways and we miss the point because Jesus is not a political party. Jesus is not an issue. Jesus is not even a church. Jesus is a person who loves you, who desires a relationship with you. I was asked this week about that line. What's with this idea of having a relationship with Jesus? We say it all the time, and really it can be kind of a difficult concept sometimes. Because I can have a relationship with my wife, hello Lindsay, right? I can wake up and give her a kiss in the morning. I can go downstairs and we can talk around the breakfast table. We can interact. I can give her a hug. That makes sense to have a relationship with my wife. But sometimes we struggle to say, well, how do I have a relationship with Jesus? I can't really see him. Can't really touch him. Can't really always hear his voice. There's times where it feels like I'm lost in the midst of it all. And sometimes we don't do wondering any favors when we make it, well, you just have a relationship. You just do it. Well, what do you mean? How do you do it? How do you do it? Right? We all just want to know. We're crying out. We still haven't found what we're looking for, and yet we're searching. We're searching. There's so many people who have tried Christianity, a version of it, and they said it doesn't meet my needs or it doesn't satisfy what I'm looking for. And so they look for satisfaction elsewhere. And again, friends, like G.K. Chesterton said, the Christian ideal has not been tried and found wanting. It has been found difficult and left untried. Now let's unpack that for a second. The reality is we're not plumbing the depths of a relationship with Jesus today, of finding Jesus today and saying we're going to have all the clarity, every question answered today. We're going to hopefully set ourselves out on the journey and catch little glimpses of clarity and say, okay, that's something I can run after. That's something I can look into. That's something I can pursue out of this. Hopefully, out of this, we can have more conversations. Maybe you came with someone. Maybe you're sitting beside someone on the live stream, and you can say, what do you think John meant by that? Or what does that mean to you? And you can unpack it a little more. You can dig into it a little bit. But in John 14:6, Jesus says these words. He says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. So when we think about Jesus, and we think about a relationship with Jesus, we can actually approach it from a few different angles. Right? Where Jesus says, I am the way, let's step back from that a second. So if we're looking for something, right? We stub our toe and we find the kingdom of heaven. We are searching for great pearls and we find the kingdom of heaven. We are looking for Jesus. And when we find Jesus, it's worth everything. Well, what's worth everything? There's some of us who have had experiences of messing up our lives. Some of us know it. Some of us maybe even in the midst of it now, where we made some decisions last night and we aren't so happy about them. We know there's going to be some consequences that ripple out from that. Friends, Jesus actually offers us a way to live. You can look at his teachings. And the teachings of Jesus are teachings that help us move in healthier rhythms than not. One of the amazing things, sometimes people think that church is all about a list of do's and don'ts and that God's just out to spoil our fun, when the reality is, like we covered last series, that if we were created by God and if Jesus was the one that formed us, then his words are something that leads us into life that is truly life. He wants us to thrive. He wants us to enjoy. He wants us to be satisfied. He wants that deep longing to be fulfilled. So when we actually listen to the teaching of Jesus, it's a way to live in the world that actually taps into what we were made for. So when he tells us that, wait a minute, actually pursuing money as a bottom line will lead to like rust and destruction, like we pursue stuff, we pursue money, we pursue material wealth, well, those stuff, it can be stolen, it can be destroyed, and if we've placed our value in all of that and the market crashes, we're left with nothing. Jesus says, no, put your identity and stuff in my kingdom where moths won't destroy, where thieves won't break in and steal. This idea that we can choose, we can follow the teachings of Jesus and orient our lives around it in such a way that we find this deep meaning and satisfaction. But notice that, again, it's not just being good. It's not just following his teaching. Because Jesus says, I am the way. Friends, it's actually pursuing a person, not just a way of life. It's pursuing a person. But part of pursuing that person is obeying his teachings. And as we obey the teachings of Jesus, we are working on our relationship with him. And as we do that for him, we say, Jesus, make yourself known to me as I try to follow your teachings in the world. So Jesus says, I am the way. And so we try to orient our lives, our daily decisions after his teachings, what he describes. And in that, we find more of Jesus in our lives by following the way. I am the way. He says, I am the truth. There's some people that are, again, searching diligently for what is truly real. We live in an interesting time in the world where sometimes we say, oh, that's okay for you. That may be true for you, but my truth is different. Right? We live in a world where everyone kind of has a different take on reality. That may be fine for you, but for me, it's a different thing. But Jesus says that he's actually the truth. He's actually the truth. And so it's not about sort of this mental assent to knowledge or understanding or cornering the market on truth that is really true. It's actually saying, I'm going to pursue Jesus and allow him to define what's true. And I got to tell you that in this idea of, first of all, with the way, no one has actually followed the teachings of Jesus in such a way that they found it wanting. So often we just fail to follow Jesus' teachings because they're difficult. In the same way that following the truth of Jesus, no one has followed the truth of Jesus and found that it can't be trusted. No one has. In history, too often we're trying to follow the truth of Jesus and we get thrown off because Christians are broken and they hurt us and they wound us. And so we stop the search of actual truth. We say it's too difficult. In the same way, Jesus says, I'm the life that is actually life. Too many of us are kind of just coasting through life. Right? Our society, we spend way too much time kind of escaping reality through entertainment. There's a line out there called peak entertainment, right? Where we have so many ways to be entertained, so many books that we can read, so many things to occupy our time. Video games are becoming so realistic that we could escape, lose ourselves in the midst of amazing worlds. We can take on new identities, all the while missing what's right there in front of us. We can think about escaping reality at the bottom of a bottle or at the bottom of a glass. Right? We escape reality through the relief that comes with substances. And we think maybe, just maybe, we'll find something. We search for life by chasing every experience. Maybe there's nothing you've ever said no to. You've done like Bono, searched for meaning at the end of every alleyway. You're looking for life that is really life, and Jesus says, I am life. Friends, this is where people have leaned in, and let me tell you, sometimes the church is so boring, we have masked Jesus. We've masked the true Jesus. Because church shouldn't be boring. I may be boring some of you now, and I apologize if I am. But this search for Jesus is actually something that leads to life. It's actually something that leads to life. Thanks, Mark. I love that. You're just laughing at that one because you're bored out of your mind. I know. I'm sorry. But this dynamic that, friends, we have the opportunity to invite people onto a search for life that is really life. So when we talk about this treasure that we find in a field, we're looking for Jesus. And that's what we have as the kingdom is breaking into this world. We see that Jesus is the bedrock of all reality. And when we find it, when we realize that, when our eyes are open to that fact, then we can say, okay, well, what does that mean? Well, how do we pursue Jesus? How do we pursue a relationship with Jesus? Well, if Jesus says he is the way, the truth, and the life, we do it by following his teachings. And we find more of Jesus in the midst of following his teachings. We do it by looking for truth that is a person, truth found in the person of Jesus Christ. And as we pursue truth and live within the midst of that truth, we find Jesus and life. This is why, friends, I love laughter and I love creativity. I love music. I'm not a great dancer, but even dancing can be a lot of fun, right? Because in the life, Jesus is present in the life. It's not about being dull and boring. It's about finding life. And again, even with life, it's not that the Christian ideal has been tried and found wanting and has been found difficult and left untried. And oftentimes it's churches that are at fault for masking life that is really life. Friends, my prayer is that as you participate with PFC, as you're involved in friendships here, that this isn't the only place you experience God's kingdom, because the reality of the kingdom of God is that it is breaking all the way through reality. So I had a friend who has been, he wouldn't claim to be a Jesus follower, but he's a good friend. And he's rediscovered a love for mountain biking. So he was going out last Sunday, and as we were chatting, I said to him, hey, I hope that as you're out there, as you're feeling the wind in your face and the light is shining on you, as you're biking through and you feel the endorphins of the rush of exercise, and you are just in a moment of just life, I just pray that you'd experience all, or I didn't say pray. I was like, I hope you experience all the goodness that life has for you. And so in that, let me just express what I was trying to say. I wasn't trying to force Jesus on him, but on the side, I'm saying, man, you're going to experience Christ as you bike through short hills, as the light is shining on you, as the wind hits your face, you're going to experience the living God. And my prayer is that it would bring you a little bit of peace. And as we interact, I hope that maybe one day I can speak truth to him a little bit more, that I can invite him to experience a little bit more of Jesus. And maybe it'll be like the merchant with finding that fine pearl. And he'll be like, wow, I've been looking for this. And I've caught glimpses of it as I biked and as I saw friendship, deep, meaningful friendship. And as I interacted with my parents and loved them well, I saw glimpses of this that Jesus invites me into. Or maybe he'll be surprised that he's been living in this kingdom for a little while because his heart has been broken for other people. And he's been loving people. And he just didn't have a name for what he was loving. That was Christ. Friends, this is a parable that invites us into a hunt for truth. And in that hunt for truth, the content of the parable is a hunt for Jesus. Treasure of great price that is worth everything to find. Maybe you're here because someone brought you. Maybe you're here and you're a little bit, you've just found a little disillusionment with this journey of faith. Friends, don't give up on the hunt. Don't give up on the hunt. Maybe you're here and you're loving life and Jesus is so real to you. I ask that you allow others through you to experience this truth, this way, this life. I just thank God for a parable like this that invites us into a hunt for truth, a hunt for Jesus. The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then in his joy went and sold all he had and bought that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. When he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had and bought it. Friends, as we move forward, may we experience the value of Jesus.